There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Learn, getting more out of life. Love, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Hello and welcome to the House of Wellness. My name's Luke Darcy and I'm here with my great friend Joe Stanley. Great to be with you, Joe, in this beautiful space we're in.
Oh, it is so gorgeous as always, Darcy, to be here. And in this space, we're always finding new things to look at. It's a beautiful art haven. There's gorgeous, interesting gadgets all around and this lush, thriving garden. And bees even. Look.
Well, we have a hive behind us, Joe, and I understand from last week you've got to be a little bit careful.
Oh, I am allergic, but, you know, that's OK. I'll be all right.
Well, there's 80,000 of them behind us in the glass and you can see the whole honey-making process, which is brilliant, by the way. I love watching them go to work. It's quite a special part of our studio.
Yeah, do you know there are even bees whose job it is to remove the dead bees from the hive? What extraordinary creatures. It's why you might see a few lying around us here. They're not... I can't see any right now, so we're safe.
Actually see the whole life cycle going on behind us, Joe, which is brilliant. And bees actually only live for about 5 weeks, which, when you think about it, it's pretty rough.
That is a bit rough, but they are so cool and they're making a huge comeback. Lots of people have hives these days, even us. So it feels like we're going back to the future in a big way. You know, we hang on to so much of the old, yet technology has changed our lives in ways past generations could never have imagined. Don't you think, Darcy?
Absolutely. We talk about technology a lot, Joe, and the benefits that it brings and the connection, the ability to communicate. Nothing like what we grew up with, but it also comes with some challenges at times as well. I mean, I love the medical devices. You can push a button, for example, and get instantaneous help. So there's some definitely good elements of it.
I love that. I love sat-nav. I mean, I always was getting lost when I had to follow a map. And now, no getting lost anymore. I love it.
Talking to Siri or Alexa every day, the way we communicate has been completely revolutionised, hasn't it, with apps and technology. We'll have some tips on digital detoxing later on in the show. But first, we're focusing on switching more people onto science, especially girls. And I know this is a huge passion topic of yours, Joe.
Absolutely, Darcy. You know, I'm passionate about gender equality and particularly our girls having exactly the same experiences and opportunities as our boys. And women only make up around 16% of Australians working in STEM. That's science, tech, engineering and maths. But girls are massively underrepresented and we want to encourage them to pursue a career in science.
Well, there's a lot to be said, Joe, for programming your kids early, I think, introducing them to the idea of science and getting them interested at a younger age.
Absolutely critical that we encourage our girls and give them role models and give them opportunities. We engage with science every time we use our phones or build a freeway or board a plane. I mean, it's everywhere. It's an amazing field. And Australia has produced so many trailblazers like Marita Chen, the rock star of robotics. Marita, thank you so much for joining us on the House of Wellness.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
You have created many robots in your young lifetime, but I do understand that you had an amazing vision for your very first robot. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So my mum would ask me to help her do chores around the house and I would do them begrudgingly. And I remember I was washing the dishes and I thought, oh, it'd be so good to have like a robot help out and do all these chores in the house, like clean the floors and do the dishes and just do all the housework.
So most kids want to avoid doing the dishes, but what is it about you, do you think, that is drawn to robots?
Oh, I think it's just that idea that I had, which was like, we have all these amazing computer systems. Why don't we have more intelligent mechanical systems that can help us in the real world? And I just thought, you know, I want more of that in this world. I want to be part of it. I want to make it happen. And so it was just this dream that just sounded so exciting and that wasn't realized yet. And so I don't want the robotic revolution to take off without me. I want to be part of that.
I understand that you've created an invention for visually impaired people. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So blind people, when they hop out of their taxi at their new location they've never been, they can point their phone and see that there's a park in front of them or a parking lot or a building or a sidewalk. And it would help make their lives easier. So you can walk around and your phone automatically does these recognitions. So it does 7 recognitions a second. And so if you have like a messy space and you're looking for your keys and you're like, I'm trying to find my keys, you can just put your phone over a table or a desk and, see that there's a cup there or a paper or some paper or books and then once you hear keys, you can know to like zero in on that area and pick up the keys so that you can leave the house. And so we created the app and it's been downloaded over 500,000 times and being used all over the world in 23 different languages. So it's nice to know that, we created something that was helpful to some people.
It's really amazing, Marita, and I find it really interesting that we hear a lot of negative talk around AI and how AI is going to ruin our lives as humans moving forward, but you are obviously painting a world in which robotics is only enhancing human life.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely lots of opportunities with robotics, and I think that, the most rewarding is to use technology to help people and improve our lives and make life better for people. And so that's what I try and dedicate my energy towards.
Do you have a favourite invention?
I think I'm always like engrossed in whatever I'm working on. So I like my latest robot the most, which is the 8 Degree of Freedom robotic arm. It's 8 degrees of freedom, so it can move around into lots of different positions, and it has its own movable platform, so it can roll around and go to lots of places. I think it's just great because we were able to have it lift over 1.5 kilos with it in its current iteration, and it's really affordable. So I'm really proud of that.
Do you think that there is a shift and we're seeing more women in engineering and science and robotics?
Yeah, I think we are seeing more women put their hands up and get involved, but it's still a journey to get to parity. I mean, when I was doing my course, it was 10% women in engineering, and there are more women now, but we're still not there yet.
And finally, what would you say to girls contemplating a career in science?
Go for it. There's a lot of opportunities. The world is a big, wide place, and if you're interested in the ocean or plastics or recycling or robotics or coding, there's like so many ways that you can use your science and use your brains to help make the world better, just in the way that really speaks to you. So if you like science, go for it.
Now, Joe, did you know that NASA has promised to put the first woman on the moon by 2024? And US astronaut Shannon Walker is currently in space as the mission specialist on the SpaceX craft Resilience. She made news recently when she got a boomerang sent to her from South Australia, which was to represent human exploration. It's a fantastic story.
She is extraordinary. I'm so inspired by her. She's married to Adelaide-born astronaut Andy Thomas, and there's a huge push in South Australia, especially, to develop space exploration. So the opportunities for girls and boys in this country are endless. And Das, that generation, your kids, my daughter, they are going to change the world, don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah,
in a good way.
absolutely.
I like the idea.
I'd just like my daughter to clean her bedroom first, if that's possible.
Welcome back. Now, Joe, you know that I am a fan of doing detox occasionally, a little bit of a cleanse or a fast. I've had a couple of weeks of just juice only through the team at the Green Street Juice Company. I had sort of soup and juice for another couple of weeks. A couple of times a year, I just like the idea of, you get away from alcohol and coffee and just give the system a bit of a reboot, Joe.
Yeah, I do know you love the juice cleanse, but I also know that coincides with when Beck's away. So I'm a little sus on whether or not it's the detox or that you just don't want to cook for yourself.
A little bit of column A and column B there.
Yes. I have a friend who loves a juice detox, and I also have a friend who just poured a huge amount down the drain because it really wasn't for her. So I wonder whether sometimes it's a bit of a fad. But I also have a friend who swears by rubbing onions on her feet
Onions?
to detox the blood. I have strange friends. But she also puts a halved onion in her fridge to purify the air. Apparently the same sulfuric compounds that make onions stink can kill bacteria.
I need to talk to you about not rubbing onions on your feet, but
Okay.
sort of herbed oil or massage oil at night. You'll have the deepest, most relaxing sleep you can ever have. Slightly off topic, not onions, just a little bit of oil, Joe. I promise you never ever sleep better.
Oh, nice. Well, there are all kinds of weird and wonderful detoxes out there, from drinking nothing but cabbage soup to eating just grapes and drinking water, which to me just sounds like a wine diet, which is what probably we really do need to detox from, don't you think?
Well, we are right in the middle of Feb Fast at the moment. A lot of people have given up the booze for the month, Joe. Giving up the wine is one thing, Joe, but how long do you think you could last without your mobile phone?
I would like to think ages, but probably I would last maybe a day, tops. What about you?
Well, I think I'm probably spending more time on it than I'd probably like to concede. So I think I'd find it harder than I probably thought.
Yeah, well, did you know that there's a term, nomophobia?
No.
Nomophobia is the fear of being without your mobile. And it is real, and because we're all addicted to social media. And no one understands that better than Alex Kingsmill, who gave up all her tech for 2 whole months. That's including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the lot.
As a counsellor and life coach, Melbourne's Alex Kingsmill is used to helping her clients overcome bad habits. But 3 years ago, Alex found herself struggling with her very own addictive behaviour.
I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and I was exhausted, like just tired, so tired. And normally, I think during the day or after, like the little kids were in bed, I would have normally kind of gone out or gone for a run or a walk or exercised or gone out for a drink or something. And I just was tired. And so I think I found myself more just kind of flopping on the sofa and scrolling. When you've got little kids, it can often be really isolating, and that idea about having a connection with the outside world can be really enticing. I just found myself doing it more and more and getting sucked into that, and knowing that I was getting sucked into it, but still just sitting there doing it. But at the end of the night, I'd kind of just feel a bit gross, like I'd go to bed feeling sort of yuck, like not fulfilled in the way that I would have been if I'd been doing other stuff.
At the same time as Alex was struggling with her own social media use, she noticed more and more of her clients were experiencing the same issues.
Lots of them were saying that they had been on their phones a lot and that they were starting to feel as though they were attached to them too much and kind of beholden to them. They couldn't put their makeup on without having their phone there, or having some YouTube video going, or scrolling Instagram, or having something up on the screen. Like, it was really quite extreme. Or people couldn't sit at work on their computer without their phone beside them. Or if they went out for a walk, they had to take their phone because they felt empty or lost. And so I had that in my mind. Like, I knew that I was scrolling more than I was used to and more than felt comfortable. And I had in my mind this kind of potential, you know, the getting really, really attached to it. And so that's what I think got into my head and made me start thinking, oh, maybe I need to make a change. As a coach, I love a goal. I'm a goal nerd and I know how to do it. So I decided to kind of say, okay, for a couple of months, I'm just going to not use social media.
Committing to a total digital detox, Alex deleted all her social media apps and hid her phone out of sight throughout the day. Immediately, it hit her that her addiction was far worse than she'd realised.
It's just an urge, like it's kind of almost part of your muscle memory, like you just kind of reach for your phone, and then I would address it and say, oh no, I'm not doing that anymore. It was so hard, and I think in a way that the fact that it was hard motivated me more, because I hadn't realised how attached I was to it. And when I realised how hard it was, it reinforced the idea that I really needed to curb it.
It may have been a tougher habit to quit than she'd expected, but within just a few weeks, Alex noticed enormous benefits to her mental well-being.
I was better. Like, I wasn't so cranky. I was much more in the moment, which sounds a bit, I mean, people always say that, but it was true, that I was more responsive to my family, that I was enjoying the stuff that I like to do much more without that nagging sense of, oh, I could be reaching for my phone. The less I was on social media, the less I was thinking about things I could consume or just stuff for the house or clothes or makeup or all the stuff that comes at you normally when you're scrolling, I just found myself wanting less because I wasn't even aware of it. Like I just wasn't thinking about that stuff as much, but kind of thinking more expansively about stuff that mattered to me. So I was thinking more about my business and my family and ideas more. Maybe that was because I was reading more as well. But rather than just being focused on that little screen, I was just kind of open to the world more.
After 2 whole months without a second of scrolling, Alex felt recharged and ready to return to the online world. But the experience helped her set clear boundaries that she still lives by today.
I have the apps back on my phone, but I don't check them nearly as much. I might do it in the beginning of the day, sort of, and the end of the day, but nothing really in between. Yeah, it's just not there's not that urge to be reaching for it all the time, and I keep my phone away from me. So if I go out for a walk with my kids, I don't take my phone. I keep it out of the main rooms that we hang out in generally. It's just so much better that I'm not distracted from them. I'm not kind of looking at them and then also checking a phone. It's just out of the picture.
So, Jo, they say on average we spend 91 minutes a day looking at social media and around 46 hours a week looking at a screen. Now, that can't be right, can it? That's 7 hours a day looking at a screen.
It does sound...
It sounds ridiculous.
I mean, how do we get anything else done? How do we have relationships? I don't know. I don't know. But when you think about it, though, even when you're with people, you're still on the phone. You know, we're kind of talking and checking the phone at the same time.
It's disturbing, isn't it? Trying to get some etiquette around that, and me included too, because I've had the feedback from you're not talking or definitely cleared out the dinner table. No phones allowed then.
Yes.
Tried to keep them out of the kids' bedrooms, but that's getting harder as they get older.
Yeah, I think it's nice sometimes we insist on going for a walk without the phone, walk the dog without the phone, because otherwise the temptation is too much. And if you're out in nature, be in nature.
See, I like having my phone when I walk because I'm obsessed with how many steps I take for the day. So you've got to have your phone to count steps. Don't like looking at it, I just like it in my pocket.
That's why we're on it for 46 hours a week, don't you see? And also, because there's so much else you can do. There's phone banking. I'd be lost without that. You can contact your child at any time. I've got Find Her phone on here, so I know where she is. You know, anywhere. All the time. You've got... I'm always on the weather. I need to know if there's going to be a thunderstorm. Don't you think you need that? Oh, and check out this app here. Can you see?
Welcome back. Before the break, we met Alex, who gave up all their social media for 2 whole months. Jo?
Oh, look, it's certainly easier said than done for many of us. Social media is a minefield. So to help us negotiate it without setting off too many explosions at home, I spoke with leading wellness podcaster Sarah Davidson. So let's be honest, Sarah, how bad is your social media addiction?
Well, I don't want to necessarily be honest about mine, but the average person is picking up their phone and having about 46 hours of screen time per week. So that's a full-time job worth 9 to 5, 8 hours a day for 5 days a week of screen time and picking up their phone 85 times a day.
I can't even believe that. How do you get anything else done? And how do we resist? Because it's there, it's a habit, right? What are some ways we can stop ourselves from reaching for the phone?
I mean, it's just there all the time. It's so tempting. So I think just saying, oh, I'm going to put my phone down is probably not enough. So implementing a few strategies or tactics like not having your phone at meal times, for example. That's when you go to a restaurant, you see everyone on their phone not talking to each other. Or having no phones in the bedroom or parts of your house where you don't have them. I find that there are some apps or some accounts or things that I do on my phone that don't make me feel so great. So maybe unfollowing accounts that kind of trigger you to feel pressured or to be really active in your brain when you need downtime, or just turning off your push notifications that are in there in your brain all the time.
That is absolutely key. And some of the strangest apps want to send you notifications. I'm like, no, I don't need to hear from you all the time. No, thank you, needy. But what about the fact that the poison could also be in the cure? Because these days there are apps to stop us using apps.
It sounds so backwards, but sometimes you do need a bit of a stronger hand. I, for example, need a little bit more help than just designating time without my phone. And so there are apps you can download that actually stop you or give you notifications that count the amount of hours you've been using it, or lock you out of some of your things on your phone so that you have to put your phone down. And there's lots of different kinds that draw on different things that will motivate you, for example, to get your nomophobia under control. For example, Flipped is an app that has a light lock or a full lock that will have different barriers or time limits on certain apps, so it just locks you out of your phone. The light one depends on you using some self-control. I need the full lock that locks me out of my phone altogether.
I love that. It's like, not for you right now. It's making the decision for you. And we were talking earlier about how often we check our phones. It's almost an unconscious action. So is there some way we can stop ourselves from just constantly picking it up?
There's actually an app purely for that purpose called Checky, which counts every time you just pick up your phone and will let you know if you're anywhere close to that 85 and stop you earlier.
Oh, I don't know if I'd want that. I think that would be a scary thing to learn. What about, you know, with our kids, right, the only way to get them off devices is straight out just bribery or, you know, removal, which is a very alarming cold turkey reaction, let me tell you. But are there apps that help adults for these sorts of things?
There's an amazing one that I've been using which kind of gamifies the whole experience. And for someone like me who's a little bit high achievy and like wants a bit of a project, Forest app actually allows you to plant a seed, and then the longer that you spend off your apps, the seed will grow into a forest. But the minute that you get back on your apps and start using your phone, your forest will wither and die.
Oh, I love that as a metaphor for how we're all withering and dying because of our phones.
And you can actually earn points. So for someone who actually wants to feel like they're making progress and achieving and getting medals and trophies, you can earn coins that then allow you to plant actual trees in Cameroon, Tanzania.
Oh, I love that. And you know what they should do? They should make it that actually every minute you spend off is contributing to the world's growth forests. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Make that app. Do that app.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll come back to you with that one.
It'd be good, yes. Now, I understand that you had a little sneaky peek at my phone, and I'm a little alarmed at what you might have found stats-wise for my usage.
Yes, so in your phone, built in, as well as these apps, it actually measures what your screen time is, what the average is per week. And week to week, you can compare and see what your percentage, whether it's up or down. So how many hours on average do you think that you're spending on your screen?
A week?
A week. 46 is the average, so where do you think you sit on that?
Oh, 46.
This is like a self-reporting system.
I'm going to say maybe 50? 55.
5 hours a day
5
on
hours
average.
a day. So what's that? 35.
35 hours.
I need my calculator. Oh my God.
You need to start doing arithmetic in your mind.
Oh, so I'm pretty good.
You're really good.
Oh, I tell you, how validated do I feel?
And this
I am
week you're
loving
38%
myself.
down from that. So you're doing well.
Jeez, I must be spending a lot of time in real life with people like you.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Recovering
It's a real challenge.
nomophobics.
Yes, that's right. It's a real challenge to us to just get off the phone.
We are back in the House of Wellness kitchen, and I've got to say, GQ, I love that we can showcase the power food has on our well-being. Now, today is all about that powerful mineral, magnesium.
Magnesium, Heinzie, is the fourth most common mineral in our body, and it's important that we know that we've got some natural options to help us cope with our stress.
Mate, I've got one word to say to you. Bananas. I have one every morning. I swear by them. So they're packed with potassium and a bucket load of magnesium, making them perfect for those busy people who are having stressful mornings on the run.
Heinzie, it's an ideal food for people on the go, as you said. And the magnesium helps us develop a healthy stress response and control some of those nasty stress symptoms.
Look, and we all cope with and experience stress differently. I mean, it can be anxiety or moodiness, all the way to nausea, headaches and sleeplessness. It can really, really mess with our day.
And while you're coping with stress, you can actually lose a few of your marbles as well. And that's where magnesium helps improve your mental performance.
And that's where I come in. So I'm going to add some nuts to go along with the dark chocolate and the banana to make this a mighty magnesium mix.
3 of my favourite things, Heinzie. And did you know as well that magnesium plays a role in converting energy from fats and protein and carbohydrates.
The type of energy that's going to help us manage more stressful times. Now, while I spoon this delicious cookie dough batter out, can you tell me what would be good to pair with magnesium?
Heinzie, the herbal world provides us with Rhodiola rosea. Now, this is a herb from the mountains of Europe and Asia, and we use the roots of the herb as an adaptogenic product. Now, an adaptogenic herb means it helps us cope with the ravages of daily stress that we find across the day.
All right, well, I'm going to pop these in the oven, strap on my hiking boots and head for the hills.
There's no need, Heinzie, because, as you know, the B vitamins that we get from food sources can help us well.
Sure, so focus on things like fatty fish, meat, eggs, milk, and you'll be good to go.
The B group vitamins have two functions. They help us develop a healthy resistance to stress, and they help with a healthy nervous system, all available in supplement form.
I'm going to take off these hiking boots and get into these cookies.
Well, leave those with me.
Calm your farm.
Just leave
Share.
them. Leave them.
Share.
Leave them. Share.
The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Ethical Nutrients, Australian Pharmacy's #1 magnesium brand.
Now, Joe, did you know growing up in South Australia always referred to peanut paste? It was never peanut butter.
That is bizarre. Everyone says butter. Who says paste?
South Australians.
Wow. Well, is it vitamins or vitamins?
Oh, it's vitamins. Definitely.
Definitely.
Not.
What
Yeah.
about, well, you say potato, I say tomato. However you pronounce some vegetables or nuts, they are packed full of goodness. But most of us don't eat enough of them to get the necessary vitamins. That leaves us asking, what supplements should I be taking? And just as importantly, when should I be taking them?
So, Belinda, there are so many different supplements out there. So let's start with a simple question. What is actually in a multivitamin?
So a multivitamin is basically a combination of different vitamins and minerals. Some of them have a couple of extra things in them, like herbs, whether it's for stress relief or whatever. But a general multi is going to have small amounts of different vitamins and minerals in there. So it's kind of like a basic sort of insurance policy, just making sure that if you're missing one or two little nutrients from your food, that you're being covered.
So is there a right time to actually be taking a multivitamin?
Yeah. So basically with a multivitamin, a lot of the vitamins that are in there are our B group of vitamins. And these vitamins are really good for increasing energy, reducing stress. So I would say to be definitely taking your multivitamin with breakfast first thing in the morning. You do need to take them with food because they absorb better with food. But if you take it too late in the day, you might find yourself lying in bed a bit stimulated. You know, we want to be stimulated in the day, but nobody wants to not sleep.
I'm a massive fan of taking zinc, but quite a few times I've felt sick.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more the good and the bad times to take zinc?
Absolutely. So with zinc, it can make you feel a bit nauseous. It's a bit of a reflex reaction when the zinc hits the gut lining, that you can feel a little bit unwell, and that's a big turn off for people. So you do need some hydrochloric acid in the stomach to digest zinc. So you do need to have it near food, but maybe not too close to food because it can interfere with the absorption of certain nutrients and minerals, so things like iron and things like calcium. So maybe sort of 10, 15 minutes after your meal.
And what about magnesium? Because it helps me so much with my stress and my sleep. But again, you hear different things as to when you should be taking it and also how much you should be taking of magnesium.
Yeah. So the thing with magnesium is it's about 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So if you've got headaches, you're tired, you don't sleep well, you've got anxiety, you've got muscle aches and pains. I mean, hands up anybody who doesn't have any of those things.
Even as a nutritionist and a chef, you're speaking about me.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that's because when we're busy and stressed, our body chews through so much magnesium. So we're just needing lots of it. A lot of the time with magnesium, there's other things mixed in with it. So if you go back to your B vitamins that we were talking about, if it's got those mixed in with your magnesium powder, morning's going to be better. And some of them have some beautiful ingredients like lavender or sour cherry or lactium, and they're going to help you to sleep, and they're in a lot of those nighttime magnesium blends.
Okay, so I've decided I want to take a multivitamin or start taking different vitamins. What do I do? Do I speak to my GP, a naturopath? Do I get a blood test?
I mean, it is ideal to, a lot of people do self-prescribe vitamins and herbs and things like that. Sometimes we're getting forms that aren't even absorbable. Sometimes, we're taking things that we don't need. Some people take iron because they're tired, but they actually have too much iron, and that can be dangerous. So it is best to kind of get some advice from a naturopath or a nutritionist. They're the people that are qualified for that. And then also, too, you can consult with your GP to get your levels checked. If you don't do these things, people say, oh, I've tried magnesium before. And I'm like, okay, can we just try it again? Because, you know, I've got all these symptoms. We do it at the right dose, at the right time, with the right form. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So it's not just what you take, it's how you take, the form you take, and the dose you take.
Das, one of the big health stories to come out recently is that now, when you get your prescription, it will list the medication's active ingredient rather than the brand name. So, for example, if you get a prescription for Ventolin, your script will now say salbutamol. I think it's a great initiative and should mean less medication errors by both doctors and patients.
Look, I think it goes a long way, Joe, to simplifying the language around medications, and having one standardised name for each medicine makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next, how to give your skin that just left the day spa look.
And we meet the Queensland barista who's smashing stereotypes. That's here on the House of Wellness.
Foundation is so important because it is the base to all our makeup. So when people typically think of foundation, the first thing that comes to mind is quite a heavy coverage and quite a lot of makeup. And I think foundation has come a long way in recent years. And there are foundations out there that offer a light coverage, however, last up to 12 hours. And I have found personally that Revlon Color Stay actually does that.
It feels so light on my skin and really easy to blend. All the way down the neck, the ears. I love that it's hiding some blemishes that I have, but you can still see my freckles. Not only does it feel good, but it looks really natural too.
Revlon's Color Stay Light Cover Foundation increases the skin's hydration up to 56% and has such amazing ingredients in it, including pomegranate, which works well with hydrating the skin. The more hydration that's in it, the more your face is going to be glowing and it's not going to stick in any creases or fine lines.
And also, I always look for an SPF component. And this foundation has SPF 30, which is amazing.
So really the best way to apply foundation is to use a brush where you can buff it in for that really natural, light, beautiful look. And the light foundations work amazing for making skin look like skin and the ability to wear it every day.
Well, Joe, we kicked off today talking about equality, especially gender equality regarding getting more women into science. And I feel like society's come a long way in promoting equality in all kinds of sectors. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, we have come a long way. It is amazing to think that just over 100 years ago, women couldn't even vote. So that's not that long ago. We've come a long way, still got a long way to go though.
Yeah, well said. I know you're very passionate about that. Back to technology though, Joe, we've got access to so much information. We're more educated and aware. People aren't afraid to speak out about injustice. So there is a greater sense of social justice.
Yeah, it's true and it's great. It also applies to people living with a disability. Those positive changes have helped one young Queenslander defy both the odds and the naysayers to go full steam ahead into a career he was told was beyond him.
When Harrison Hedges was born with cerebral palsy and epilepsy, his parents were told he'd never be able to walk. But thanks to his mother, he defied all expectations.
My amazing mum took off 2.5 years of work and we did physiotherapy every single day because she had that vision of showing the doctors that I would walk and I would be able to do everything that a neurotypical person would be able to do.
It was that belief that Harry held on to through a challenging and isolating childhood.
I still had a lot of complications with walking and whatnot, so I had a walking frame and I had the complications of having seizures as well, because this is when they were very prime and they would happen frequently on the hour, every hour. I was always the easy target. I was always the one that would be picked on first. That was the hardest thing for me because I didn't really understand why these people were picking on me.
After struggling to fit in throughout school, at the age of 15, Harry did a work experience placement at a Brisbane cafe. On his very first day, he discovered his passion for the art of brewing coffee.
I just fell in love with it because there's so many variables to it. Like, there's so many different ways you can make coffee. And I just love the way that coffee brings people together.
Harry's disabilities impact his motor skills and coordination, so becoming a professional barista would take some serious dedication.
I wanted to exceed the expectation of overcoming those limitations because I don't think there's ever limitations in life. It's only a mindset. People with epilepsy and cerebral palsy and any disability for that matter can achieve anything that they set their mind to. You just got to give them the time of day and the opportunity.
Getting the opportunity proved to be a much bigger obstacle than Harry expected, as he found the discrimination didn't end after leaving high school.
I was getting at least 60 to 70 rejection letters a month. At this point, we were 10 years seizure-free, but I think the employers were more scared of taking someone on for their insurance purposes or their liability in the way of they just didn't want to take that risk and be branded as someone that had a disability in their establishment.
Unemployment rates in Australia are twice as high for people living with disabilities. Despite countless rejections, Harry kept pushing for years and managed to find small patches of work at multiple Brisbane cafes. It was at one of these cafes that he met award-winning coffee roaster Tim Adams.
I've met a lot of baristas who don't really pay attention to what you're telling them. They're kind of just listening for the sake of it and going through training motions. But Harry sort of struck to me as someone who was really keen to learn about specialty coffee in a very genuine sense, which is kind of what attracted me to his personality. When I personally hire staff, I want to know that they are caring about our business and our ethics and what we do and where we're ending up. If we're on the same page, then the disability is just not even something worth chatting about. It's definitely worth knowing, but not something you have to continually bring up because the end goal is what we're all in it for.
Recognising a fellow coffee lover in need of support, last year Tim helped Harry score his dream full-time job. Not just as a barista, but as the proud owner of his very own coffee shop.
It's tasting good. Nice and hot. Yep.
26 years after the doctors said he'd never walk, today Harry's on his feet 12 hours a day, expertly brewing Tim's specialty blends.
I do get tired. I do lack energy, but I guess for me it's the willing and the drive that I have for my business, for my passion for coffee and for overcoming my challenges. It brings me a lot of joy, it brings me a lot of happiness, and I wouldn't be running my own coffee shop if it wasn't for Tim.
Cheers, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Everyone deserves the right to employment, whether they do have a disability or not.
What about that, Darcy? It's so beautiful, a mother's love. Harry's mum was convinced her boy could do whatever he put his mind to, and I tell you what, mums know.
Very powerful message, Joe. Great story. I love it. I love the passion for coffee we just saw, Jo. I know you and I quite enjoy coffee from time to time. Still a pretty simple full cream latte for me.
Sure, you're so boring. Where's your almond, your oat, your soy, your cashew, your blue, your turmeric?
Just a simple person. Joe, I'm not sure about you, but I always feel better when I see those familiar red and yellow flags at the beach over summer.
Oh, look, our lifesavers have had their work cut out for them this summer, Das. So many lives saved, but so many drownings. At last count, 68 people have lost their lives.
It's a real reminder, Joe, isn't it, to keep your eye on your kids at all time near water, regardless of how calm the waters may appear. Unless they're swimming between the red and yellow flags, you've really got to be on your guard the whole time.
Absolutely. I am obsessive about water safety, and the pandemic meant swimming lessons were put on hold, which, frankly, I was thrilled about. cannot stand sitting by the pool waiting for my daughter and her swimming lessons. But as soon as they resumed, she was back in the pool because it is so important that our kids know how to swim.
Yeah, my good friend is a guy called Paul Sadler. He's a bit of a pioneer in the learn to swim, and I'm always talking to him about what age to start, how young, and he's basically saying, as young as you possibly can get familiar with water is a good thing. To me, that's just at the top of the list in terms of compulsory for your kids, isn't it? Getting them to the point where they can survive in water.
Absolutely.
Well, there's still a little bit of summer left, Jo, hopefully.
Yeah, not as much as I'd like. And I have to say in Melbourne, we haven't had much warm weather.
Yeah, well, I still enjoyed my time over the sun. Maybe you'll get a bit of sun this weekend with a little bit of luck. That's our show for today. Head to our website for your daily dose of wellness and for more information on anything you've seen today. And don't forget to tune in to the House of Wellness radio show with Jo Stanley and GQ every Sunday. And as always, thanks to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.